The 2015 11-inch MacBook Air. This is the last year that Apple made an 11-inch version of this MacBook Air, and in this video we're going to take a look at what it is, what it isn't, where to find one, how much to spend, and things that you need if you're going to grab one. So let's get right into the video. Hey everybody, it's Chris from Family Geekery, and today we're going to be taking a look at this 2015 11-inch MacBook Air. So like I said in the intro, this is the last year that they made this. After they made these 11-inch MacBook Airs, they still continue to make the 13-inch, and even this year they came out with a 15-inch, which is pretty nice, but this is the last year that they made the 13-inch. After that, they started making these guys, which is the 12-inch MacBook, and we'll talk about that in a little bit in a comparison with this. But this 11-inch is not for everyone, but it's got some pretty nice performance for a tiny little computer, and we're going to be talking about it from a kind of a buyer's guide point of view today, because these things are still out there. You can still grab them. You can get them for pretty cheap, and they may be exactly what you need. So let's talk first about some of the specs that were available when this thing came out. So anytime I'm talking about specs for a MacBook or a MacBook Air or MacBook Pro, I always refer to Mac Tracker. And Mac Tracker is an app that you can get on your phone or you can get on your Mac. And I've done a video about it. You can find it right up here. Usually I just carry it around in my pocket and take a look at my phone anytime I need to see. But since we've got it right here, I'll go ahead and pull it up. So here is the list of MacBook Airs. And you can see the 2015 was the last time that they had this 11-inch model. And then all after that is all 13s, and then this new 15 down here. So let's go ahead and just go in here, and this is going to give us all the information that we need to know about what kind of options they were when they sold this. So this was sold obviously in 2015, discontinued in 2016, but this little box right here that says supported, that's important. That means that you can still download software for it. You can still download updates for it. So that may stop after this year, but that doesn't really mean anything. If you stop updating your OS version, then you do run the risk of eventually having security patches that aren't made for it. But usually they continue to have, security patches for your browsers and stuff like that, even if the operating system itself isn't going up to the newest, greatest version. The operating system usually just brings you features, and then security patches are a different thing. So it is still supported, which is good. We can get this thing all the way up. In fact, this one is running right now with macOS Monterey. So we'll take a look at that again later. But we can see that it's supported, and the first thing we're going to look at is the processor. So this particular model had two options, an i5 and an i7. In this case, it makes it very simple. So they're both 2-core, 4-thread processors. It's not like the i7 has more cores or anything. It's just a matter of the speed. So we've got 1.6 gigahertz for the i5 and 2.2 gigahertz for the i7. When we look at benchmarks for it, we can see a comparison right here where it shows the benchmark speeds for this single core. The difference between the two is 629 and 744. And then for the multi-core, it's 1308 and 1566. So on average, between these two processors, we're looking at like a 15 to 20% difference in speed. So what does that mean, really? What it really means is if you find one of these that has the i7 in it, then go ahead and grab it. If you find one that has the i5, go ahead and grab it. I mean, they're both great. The i7, if you have an option between the two, then the i7 is going to be the better of the two. It's going to be a little bit faster. But besides that, they're both pretty much the same processor, just a matter of a little bit of speed bump. Are you going to see that in everyday tasks? Probably not. If you're just browsing the web, doing some emails, checking Facebook, that kind of stuff, streaming some Netflix, it's not going to be a huge difference. But having a little bit of extra power isn't always bad. Now, if you found two of these and there was a price difference between them, then I would say anywhere from $20 to $30 difference between them, I'd go with the i7. If it gets much more than that, $50 to $100 difference, then I'd say don't worry about it. Just stick with the i5. Now when we get down here to storage and media, these things had SSDs in them that were pretty small, starting at 128 going up to 512 gigabytes. So not a lot. I would bet that most of the ones that you'd find out there would be this 128 model. And is that the end of the world? Absolutely not. It's definitely small, but this thing is pretty easy to upgrade the SSD in. I made a video about doing the same exact process for a 2015 MacBook Pro. I'll link that right up here. And if you watch that video, you'll know exactly what you need to do to do it to this. You'll need a Syntec adapter, and you'll need a nice toolkit like my Strabito toolkit, and a couple minutes, 10-15 minutes, you'll have the new drive in there, and then you can do recovery to throw the Mac OS back on there. Piece of cake. So you can get 1 terabyte, 2 terabytes into this thing for another, less than $100 easy. 1 terabyte for probably $50 total with the adapter. So I'll leave some links in the description below for some bits and pieces that you'll need to do that. But I would say if you find one of these at a decent price and you pick it up, or if you've already got one of these and it's got the 128, then I would go ahead and do that $50 upgrade and get that much bigger hard drive on there. It's going to help out with anything that you want to store, whether it's pictures or music or movies or whatever, and it's going to help out with any kind of updates that come so they don't bog down your computer. Alright, so after that, let's take a look at memory. On these models, we had a choice of 4 or 8 gigs. I'm going to bet again that most of the ones that you find out there are going to be in the 4 gig category. And the bad news is you can't upgrade this. You can't open this up and put more memory in. That's memory that's installed from the factory. It's soldered onto the board, and that's it. Whatever you bought it with is what you're going to have. So if you are lucky enough to find one of the i7 8 gigs, then that's going to be awesome. I'm going to bet most of the ones that you're going to find is going to be the i5 with 4 gigs, and that's exactly what this one is. Does that mean it's a dog? No, it still does all the things that we talked about, browsing the web, doing your Facebook, any kind of stuff like that. It's going to be completely fine. Would I use this as an everyday driver to edit my videos, my 4K videos, and edit photos and stuff? Probably not, for a lot of different reasons. The processor, the RAM, and the screen size itself. But for everyday tasks, this thing is just fine. Alright, so the next thing that we talk about after we got the processor and the RAM and the hard drive taken care of, let's talk about the graphics and the display. Now the graphics is going to be pretty decent. It's Intel HD 6000. It's not going to be something that you play AAA games on, but when it comes to efficiency, these things were great. This integrated graphics was great for saving power and still having a decent display to it. So it's not pushing a ton of pixels because it is only an 11.6 inch display. We're looking at a 1366 by 768 native resolution. Now that's the resolution of this screen right here. So that is pretty limited. Now it's limited, of course, because this thing is only 11 inches and it's super portable. But you can plug into the Thunderbolt output. It's got a Thunderbolt port on here, and you can get all the way up to 4K at 60 Hertz. So this thing will drive a 4K display with no problem. In fact, you can do 2 Thunderbolt displays on here, which would be just absolutely awesome, having 2 Thunderbolt, like 27-inch displays. And I've got videos about those Thunderbolt displays. Those things are awesome. Having 2 of those on your desk and this tiny little computer, that's just amazing. Like I said, it's still a decent computer for 99% of what you're going to be doing. Just don't expect it to play games and crunch, 4K video. So speaking about the connections that it has, on here we've got Wi-Fi 802.11 AC. So not the newest like X version, but the AC is still plenty fast. Bluetooth 4.0. We've got Ethernet is only available if you have a USB Ethernet adapter. Most people aren't going to be hooking this thing up with Ethernet port, but if you need to, they do make an adapter. Apple makes one, you can find one, also an off-brand one. It's got 2 USB ports on the side, 1 Thunderbolt port up to 20 gigabits, so that thing is super fast. If you have any kind of external Thunderbolt storage, that'll work with this. Most people don't, but thumb drives all the way up to USB 3 are going to be fine. Like we said, it's got the output. The Thunderbolt port is also for digital video output, and we've got a built-in microphone, a couple microphones here for doing FaceTime and stuff, and then we've got a headphone jack on here. Now let's talk about next the power adapter. You can see this crusty, ugly looking thing here. Don't judge me on the quality of this cable. That's what it came with. but it's got the MagSafe 2 power supply, which actually this one came with this guy right here, equally as yellow and ugly, banged up a little bit, but don't let that concern you. If you're going to buy one of these, obviously you need a power supply. If it comes with something like this and that's just ugly and you want to throw this away, then just throw it away, because there's a lot of different options. You can get another version of this. If you get the Apple one, it's going to be like 60 to 80 bucks. If you get an off-brand one, you can get one for around 20 bucks. Looks just like it. Probably works almost as good. Or you can kind of modernize it a little bit and get a cable that looks like this, which is USB-C on this side and then MagSafe 2 on the other side. And if you've got this and a decent 45 watt USB-C charger with power delivery, then you can use that and kind of modernize things, and then use this to charge your phone at the same time. Or you can get a bad boy like this guy. This Ugreen here is 100 watts, and this thing you can plug in your laptop, your iPad, your phone, and something else all at the same time. And like I said, this is going to use about 45 watts to charge it at max, and then you'll have the rest of the 100 watts to charge all your other devices. So that's the way I kind of go with all my devices. I'm trying to get everything to a USB-C. That's why I've got this cable. That way I don't have to worry about which MacBook am I grabbing and which MagSafe do I need. MagSafe 1, MagSafe 2, USB-C. Just make it easy. But if it comes with a decent one, then go ahead and keep this on your desk, and then have something like this in your backpack to make it nice and easy and portable. So of course, all of this kind of stuff, all these different cables and power supplies, you can find on Amazon for pretty darn cheap. I'll leave some links down below to ones that I've used before, the ones that I trust. Alright, so we've talked about most of the important specs: the CPU, the RAM, the hard drive, the power supply, and the video. Now let's talk about a comparison of it versus the device that basically took over this category of small computer, and that's the 12-inch MacBook. So the 12-inch MacBook, it is a very slim and sexy device, very skinny. We went to USB-C on this thing, one USB-C port, one headphone port, very simple. But the problem is, to make it that small, they had to kind of put a small processor in it, basically. So performance-wise, if you're looking at 2015 model of this Air versus the 2015 model of that MacBook, then I would say this guy is the one to get. The M3 and M5 processors that they put in these things, they were not super strong. They didn't compare at all to the i5 and i7 processors that were tried and true. In fact, this MacBook Air here has the same exact processors in it as the 13-inch MacBook Air of the same year. So when you're comparing this up against itself, its big brother, it's basically the same exact computer. It's just a different size. But comparing against that MacBook, I wouldn't say it's like night and day difference, but this one is going to win every single time. Now, as they got further and further in the line of those MacBooks, when you got up to the 2017 model, then that 2017 model, they did increase the speed of the processor to where it's about comparable to this MacBook Air. But if you're just looking for something that's super portable, then you're probably going to find this one for a lot cheaper, and I would say this is the way to go. So speaking of cheaper, what should you pay for one of these? So if you're in the market for getting something like this, and like I said, you'd have to be in the market for something that's super portable, that's a reliable computer, that's built well, then like I said, this is a great computer for all that category of needs. So what could you expect to pay for one of these? I'll give you an example. I've bought two of these recently, and I think I paid about $125 each. So that was for the computer itself. That's the i5 version with the small hard drive and the 4 gigs of RAM, and a junky old charger cable. About 125 bucks. I think the cheapest one I ever got was about 100, and so at that price point, I would say that this is still a valid, very useful device. I love having this thing. I can just bring it to the couch. I can cast it up onto the screen with my Apple TV. If I need to show, my wife or the kids or something that I'm looking at, I just cast it right up on the screen, and we look at it together on the TV. You can put this in the kitchen, use it to look up YouTube videos on cooking and stuff like that. Carry it around the house with you. Throw it in the backpack, and like I said, very portable, still very powerful for its size, and it's a great device. So in that same category of $100, you'd be comparing this up against a Chromebook, and at that, a pretty junky Chromebook. I would say I would take this one any day. You can, in fact, if you love Chromebooks, you can make this into a Chromebook. I've got a video about turning an old MacBook into a Chromebook. I'll go ahead and link that up here also. But comparing this up against a $100 Chromebook or even a $100, $150 Windows laptop, I think this is going to be the winner every time. So now we know what to look for, how much to spend on it. The next thing I want to talk about is what to get with it. So the first thing we talked about already, some kind of way of powering it up. And you can power this thing up, like I said, with this USB-C cable. In fact, I have a battery bank that puts out 65 watts. And I'll put a link down below to that. You can take this thing with this cable and that battery bank, which is only about this big, and you can power this thing up all day long on that 65 watt. It's like a 20,000 milliamp battery bank, and it charges it just fine. So having something like that, depending on how long you're going to be using it and how much portability you need and how much power you need, having something like a USB-C cable and a charger, at least a charger or a battery bank, that's going to be essential for this. Like I said, I never like taking these things. The reason why these things get all junked up and broken is because you unplug it from your desk, you throw it in your backpack, you take it out of your backpack, you plug it in at the library, you wrap it back up, throw it back in your backpack, put it on your desk, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and it just gets junked up. Just have a nice one of these, plug it into your desk, have something like this, throw it in your backpack. That way you're never unplugging stuff, from your desk, and it's only a couple more dollars to keep this thing even more portable. So besides having some accessories to power it up, another thing that I would recommend is some kind of a small sleeve for this. Now if you've got a nice backpack that's got a laptop slot in it, then that's perfect. You don't need a sleeve. But you do want to keep this thing protected from the other stuff that's in your backpack. So if you've got a backpack that just has one big pouch, put this in a sleeve first, then throw it in there. That way all the rest of the stuff that's in your backpack isn't scratching this thing up. This aluminum is pretty and it's awesome, but it's also very scratchable. So if you want to keep this thing looking nice, keep the lid and the bottom looking nice, then get yourself a small little, 11-inch sleeve, throw it in that, throw that in your backpack. The next thing I'm going to talk about is storage. If you are going to upgrade the hard drive in this thing, then you're going to be fine. Throw a 1 terabyte hard drive in there with that Syntec adapter. Take you a couple minutes. Download your new software and be good to go. If you don't want to go that route, then at least get yourself a decent thumb drive. And thumb drives like this are cheap and easy and, easy to find, but they're super slow. Even when they say they're USB 3, the speeds on them are just slow compared to other external storage. So I've got a video where I talk about never using a USB stick again. I'll go ahead and link that up here also. And I choose to use something like this, which is an external NVMe enclosure, and you can get these with either a USB-C adapter on it, which isn't going to work for this computer, but you can get an adapter that will adapt you to a USB-A, and having something like this, an external SSD versus a cheap thumb drive, if you're going to be moving a lot of files back and forth between this computer and some other computer, that's the way to go. So much faster. And like I said, the price of SSDs, the NVMe drives that are inside this enclosure here, which you can see, this is a Western Digital, they're getting so cheap, it just doesn't even make sense to buy one of these anymore unless you're just moving a couple small files from time to time, then use these. If you're going to be moving a bunch of files, then grab something like this. So that basically wraps up all the what's and whys of this machine. Like I said, if you're looking at something like this, then you're looking for something that's portable, something that's going to get the majority of jobs done. Not everybody needs a gaming laptop, not everybody needs a supercomputer. The majority just need something like this that's going to get the job done. So if you have any questions about this particular model, go ahead and throw them down in the comments below. I'll be happy to answer them. If you find one out there and you wonder if it's a good deal, go ahead and let me know what you found down there also, and I'll tell you what I think. So that's going to wrap up this buyer's guide for this 2015 11-inch MacBook Air. I hope it was helpful to you. I hope you found the answers you were looking for. If you did, then go ahead and give me a thumbs up. I appreciate that. If you want to see more stuff like this and more how-to videos on how to keep these things running, then go ahead and hit that subscribe button too. But I thank you as always for watching, and until next time, peace out and geek out.